Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. In today's episode, we're covering a variety of hot button issues with you, from the Department of Justice indicting a key whistleblower in the Hunter Biden investigation to updates on illegal migration, where these migrants in these sanctuary cities are saying these democratic policies allow us to sell drugs so easily that when we send our money back to our home countries, it's creating an economic boom in their home countries. You also have Joe Rogan reacting to an old MSNBC column where the left say exercising is white supremacy. Disney theme parks are not doing well, folks. Their attendance is down. You go woke, you go broke. And lastly, Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy goes up against the Breakfast Club. We're going to give you everything you need to know about. Before we jump into any of the details, support a true American patriot by hitting that like and subscribe button. Leave us a short, sweet comment down below. Go to any of the links in the description section and pick yourself a copy of my book, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. Folks, you're seeing what they're doing in real time. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart. Pick yourself up a copy today. And also head over to baldbrad.com. Get yourself a t-shirt, merchandise, a Bald Brad Show mug with the logo on the front, the American flag on the back. You're never going to feel more patriotic than drinking out of that bad boy. And lastly, become a member. Become a true American patriot today. We do have a membership. We have people joining all the time. They're in the live chat. They're in the comment section. Folks, become a true American patriot today. Join our membership. With that being said, we got a banger of a show here, folks. Yesterday was an awesome show with the Hunter Biden investigation with new details emerging. Well, it just continues, folks. Representative James Comer of Kentucky mocked the Department of Justice on Monday after it announced 8 charges against an American-Israeli energy expert. Folks, this one is wild. I hope you're sitting down. The DOJ announced 8 charges against Israeli professor Gal Luft, a dual U.S.-Israeli citizen and co-director of the Institute for the Analysis of Global Security, on Monday. Luft is on the run from federal prosecutors who he says are targeting him because of the information he has on the Biden family's dealings with China. Who gave the Biden family money? Oh, the Chinese did. And this guy has firsthand account on what took place. And now the DOJ just miraculously goes after him, but doesn't go after anybody in the Biden family. Matter of fact, gives Hunter Biden a sweet deal. Ooh, the cojones on the DOJ, folks. The DOJ has charged Luft with 8 crimes, including acting as an unregistered foreign agent, trafficking in arms, violating U.S. sanctions against Iran, and making false statements to federal agents. Luft denied the charges in a video statement last week published by the New York Post. The Post identified Luft as a missing witness in House Republicans' investigation into the Biden family. Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, is leading a congressional investigation into the Biden family's overseas business dealings and has already spoken about what he says is a massive money laundering operation that the Bidens erected to take in potentially tens of millions of dollars in corrupt dealings in China, Romania, and Ukraine. It's not tens of millions. It's like over $50 million. But it's amazing how they're going to go after and indict this guy, but give Hunter Biden just a sweet deal. That doesn't raise your antennas. I don't know what does. So in an appearance on Fox News on Monday evening, Comer appeared to take Luft's accusations of corruption at the DOJ seriously. We do have that clip here. Just watch Jordan's facial reactions to this whole thing as Comer begins to talk, because it's hilarious and it says everything you need to know about this investigation.
Congressman Comer, today in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, they announced charges against Gal Luft, who claims to have provided the FBI with information on the Biden family's business dealings in China. He says he's not a Republican or a Democrat. He was just concerned about a potential president of the United States having such incredible conflicts or perhaps be compromised. So, Congressman Comer, your reaction to the timing of that indictment?
Well, the timing is always coincidental, according to the Democrats at the Department of Justice. Look, here's what I know about Gal Luft. He was getting paid, like the Bidens, from CEFC. We want to speak with everyone that we can find who was also on the payroll of CEFC, like the Bidens. And anyone who says we shouldn't take Gal Luft's allegations seriously discounts the fact that the Bidens wanted to share office space with CEFC, even going so far as to saying that Hunter wanted to make an extra set of keys for both Joe Biden, Jill Biden, and the president's brother, Jim Biden. So this company that Gal...
Folks, are you following along here? I know you are. This guy receives money, Luft receives money from the Chinese, says, hey, you know what? Hunter is kind of in the same realm of all this business dealings with the Chinese as well, so much so that he wants to share office space with us because they're receiving money from the Chinese as well, and that the business is so good that he wants to make extra set of keys for the big guy, the chief, Joe Biden.
Was working for, who he was getting paid for, is the same company that the Bidens not only were getting paid for, they were also sharing office space with. So we definitely want to hear more about these allegations, and we want to see the notes from the FBI meeting. They sent 6 FBI agents, according to Gallup, to Brussels to interview him. I mean, obviously, they were concerned about something he had to say. There's some level of credibility there. So there are a lot of questions here, and it's just amazing the Department of Justice moves so quickly against some people. But then, Laura, the ultimate irony is one of the charges they levied against him was not being a registered foreign agent, which is the main thing that we've said the Bidens were all along, unregistered foreign agents.
Oh, well, Congressman Jordan, Congressman Comer, thank you both for being here tonight.
Wow. Just blowing the lid off this. And it's amazing how Merrick Garland just doesn't care anymore. He doesn't care. He's going to do what he wants to do and doesn't care about what your thoughts or opinion on it, which should partly be the case. But when I say he doesn't care, he's just going to go after anybody and everybody other than the Biden family, which is insane. The amount of evidence that you have on Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, you have actual evidence of money coming in from the Chinese that you don't want to look under the hood. All the while, for years, the Democrat Party and the progressive left consistently, every single day, in bed with the media, going after Joe Biden, saying, oh, he's a Russian pawn, Russian this, he's supporting the Russians, he's in Vladimir Putin's pocket. And you're not going to say that Joe Biden is not in the pockets of the Chinese after spending 4 to 5 years ever since Trump went down the escalator going after the guy and somehow saying he's in bed with the Russians, which you have so much more evidence of the Biden family being in bed with the Chinese, the Romanians, and the Ukrainians than you ever did in 4 or 5 years, even till now, of Donald Trump being with the Russians, which we know now is a hoax. The FBI literally paid an informant, quote unquote, an informant, to make up information. It was all a rumor. George Papadopoulos, literally, it was a rumor the guy heard, and they created a whole spiel about this for years. None of this is rumors. We have Joe on tape. You have video of Hunter. You have audio of Hunter. You have documents of Hunter. You have pictures of Hunter. Way more than you had of freaking Donald Trump ever. And nothing's being done, so much so that you give us the bird and you go, we're not going to go after Hunter, but we're going to go after the other bad guy that's supplying us information to go after another said bad guy, naming Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, the Biden family. You're going to go after that guy, but you're not going to go after any of the Biden family? Holy crap. All the while, yesterday, we went over new information about Leslie Wolf not allowing David Weiss to go after Hunter Biden in Delaware and other parts of the country like California. All the while, Merrick Garland saying, oh, we know he had unfettered access. There was no roadblocks. That's not what the whistleblowers are saying. Makes you wonder if those whistleblowers are going to be protected now that this dude's being indicted. But you're not going to indict Hunter Biden. No. Sweet deals for the Bidens all over the place. It's wild, you guys. You see Jim Jordan's face on that? Because he knows this is like deep. This is some crazy crap going on. DOJ moves fast, man, but they only move fast when it goes with their narrative. When it goes against their narrative, all of a sudden, hey, we're going to take years to investigate this thing. Hunter Biden, that whole thing goes back to 2014, 2015, folks, when he was receiving money into Burisma Holdings. And then from Burisma Holdings, it was going into another company, a shell company. I mean, all that stuff has been going down for years and years, but they're not going to do anything about it. I know it's frustrating as hell, folks, but at least we got some people in the Republican Party that are doing some actual work here on trying to unravel this whole thing. And I think it's going to take some time, you guys, because the spider web of money laundering that's been taking place probably for decades, or who knows how long, is just wild and head spinning. I want to know what you think about that, folks. Leave us a comment down below. We're moving into our next segment of the day. Speaking of head spinning stuff, you guys, hope you're sitting down, because migrants are saying San Francisco's sanctuary city policies are making it so easy to sell drugs that it's fueling a real estate boom in other countries like Honduras. We said time and time again, we've been covering illegal immigration since day one of this show. We've said Joe Biden is exacerbating just extra businesses outside the U.S. Sex trafficking, child trafficking, drug trafficking. I mean, you name the trafficking, Joe Biden is exacerbating in conjunction with the Democrat Party that doesn't want to have any actual real solutions to solving this. Their solution to solving illegal immigration, you guys, is not securing the border. It's bringing people across the border. And this is not a joke. This was on the White House plasma screens from Karine Jean-Pierre saying, we're going to give money to Border Patrol agents and the surrounding kind of agencies, so much so that when the illegal immigrants come across the border, we're going to put them on transportation like buses, helicopters, trains, and all that stuff. And we're just going to fly them to different parts of the country because we don't have enough space to hold these people. That's one of their solutions to curb illegal immigration. Yeah. It's working out so great, isn't it? Because now these people are going to these sanctuary cities, selling drugs, taking that profit and sending it back to their home country. And now they're having a real estate boom in those countries. Oh my God. So a report from the San Francisco Chronicle found the sanctuary city policies aided drug dealers from Honduras so much that the money sent home is fueling a real estate boom. The report cited interviews with Honduran migrants who sold drugs in San Francisco. Just like out there, but yeah, we're selling a ton of crack, ton of fentanyl to these Americans and killing them. Migrants said that the sanctuary city policies meant a lower risk of deportation and shorter stints in prison after criminal convictions for drug sales and other crimes. Check this out. Under the central tenet of the sanctuary law, the city jail does not allow ICE to place holds on local prisoners so they could be picked up upon release and deported. The only way most dealers face deportation is if they are arrested on federal charges or in another city. How is that like aiding and abetting? It is. That's what it is. And the states are complicit in it. These politicians are complicit in it. One drug dealer told the Chronicle that at least 50% of the drug dealers in his hometown were selling in San Francisco because of the lax enforcement policies. It's amazing, but if you, as an American citizen, did any of this, everything's gonna be fine. You're good. I mean, they're doing no bail in California. No bail. Meaning, just go out there. You're fine. You're just gonna be released. You don't have to actually have cash bail. You just go out there and just commit the crime again. Quote, the reason is because in San Francisco, it's like you are here in Honduras. The law, because they don't deport, that's the problem, he added. Many look for San Francisco because it's a sanctuary city. You go to jail and you come out. That's exactly what I just said. And it's not just the illegals. It's not just the migrants. It's also Americans that it's happening to. And they're just going out, selling more drugs, killing more people, committing more theft, committing more crime. And the Democrats are just salivating of all of it. Oh, it's so good. Look at the crime. Rely on us more. Ask us for more money. But if you did it, you get thrown in the brig and then maybe released. Depends if you're a Democrat or conservative, legal immigrant or whatever. If you're homeless, you just walk amongst the streets. You can break all the laws you want. Some of those dealers were making so much money and sending it home that the real estate market had experienced a surge in Honduras. Quote, San Francisco gives me the money, the free money, said one former drug dealer who said he used the money to build a home in Honduras village he was from. San Francisco is my city. So he's getting paid probably under the table, meaning not paying taxes on this money. Which is always a fun question whenever you're teaching people about taxes, because they always ask you, if you commit a crime, do you have to pay money on that crime of which you inherited money or received money for that crime? And I say yes. The government wants their money regardless if you're committing crimes or not. So if you're a drug dealer, you got to pay taxes on that money, believe it or not. They're not paying money on this stuff. It's all under the table. So rather than the government receiving money from local to state to federal, that money's going to other countries and allowing that other country to flourish rather than that happening here. Isn't that just lovely? So screw America destroying our cities with this crime, with this drug stuff, and exacerbating taxpayer dollars going into said agencies or whatever that's exacerbating this issue on illegal immigration, costing us about $1 trillion every 4 years. But Joe Biden's doing everything he can. Joe Biden should just continually thrive in the White House, and have a complete dereliction of duty and never be impeached. I'm for impeachment under this grounds of him literally not doing his job. And that's why I think Lauren Boebert's impeachment papers for him having a dereliction of duty, not carrying out his office of protecting our borders, is 100% attainable. I think it's real. Now, will it pass? Of course not. Of course not. But it's actually the most legitimate impeachment papers I've seen in quite some time. Because all the impeachment stuff they did with Trump was just a bunch of foo-foo, right? Oh, he's a Russian agent. He's all this other crap with the Russians. We just got done hearing a story about the DOJ going after a key witness in the Hunter Biden investigation. We just got done doing a story yesterday where literally a prosecutor or somebody part of the whole shebang on the investigation of Hunter Biden was blocking the IRS from going after Hunter Biden. So don't give me this whole thing of like, oh, well, Trump this, Trump that, Trump did it, like nobody. No. It's a bunch of crap. It's a bunch of foo-foo. It's so frustrating how corrupt things have gotten, folks, is it not? And you notice it's not the Republicans. You notice that? I'm not saying Republicans are perfect. That's not what I'm saying. I think both parties have their issues, for damn sure. But it seems like a lot of this stuff continually comes from the Democrat side of the aisle. Almost everything we're talking about is coming from the Democrats. You notice, like, there's not really many mainstream stories that are about Republicans. And if it was under the Trump administration, and you consistently see how it was just like, oh, you guys are conspiracy theories. Oh, it turns out to be true. Oh, Donald Trump is a Russian agent. Well, that wasn't true, but they go after him anyways. Oh, Donald Trump is so corrupt. Oh, all these other things. Like, a lot of it was just made up. A lot of it was actually fabricated. This is not fabricated. You're getting exact quotes from illegal immigrants or migrants in these sanctuary cities. But yeah, we're selling a bunch of drugs. Look at these idiots buying it up and making us flourish in other countries. The Chronicle reported that even when some drug dealers were deported, they simply traveled back into the U.S. illegally. One said that he had been deported 9 times, but the border's secure. Remember, the border's secure according to Karine Jean-Pierre, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Completely secure, but the dude makes it in 9 times. The report also found that some people in Honduras were decorating their homes and vehicles with San Francisco 49er logos, as well as the San Francisco Giants baseball team, over their drug dealing ties with the city. They love San Francisco. Oh my God. They're decorating their homes with memorabilia because they're flourishing so much. Oh, we love it so much. We're selling drugs and breaking the law. Well, one mango-colored mansion, not just a house, but a mansion, is a homage to the city, a Golden Gate Bridge structure on the garage door, a San Francisco Giants logo on the balcony ceiling, 2 49er logos on the front gate, the report documented. This is so wild. And the Democrats love it, you guys. They're just foaming at the mouth. Oh, it's so good. It's so great. We love crime. You could say that because they continually vote for it, you guys. You don't see the policies changing here. If anything, they keep promoting this crime, this behavior. And what they'll do on TV and the cameras go, oh, it's getting so bad, we don't like it, and all these other things. Then why don't you change it? Increase the police. Increase the budget on police, get more police. But it's racist, right? It's racist when police go into these low-income areas. By the way, I don't know how it's racist because low income affects white people too. It has nothing to do with race. If you're low income, that affects everybody's low income. Speaking of San Francisco, did you guys know if you're making less than $75,000 or something like that in San Francisco, you're considered low income? That just came out yesterday. If you're a single person making less than 75 grand, which is more than like households make in the country, you're considered low income in San Francisco because Democrats don't know how to run anything. Oh, let me know, folks, what you think about that. Immigration still affecting our country in negative ways, and we'll continue to do so until we actually get a border and figure this whole thing out. Well, speaking of things that are frustrating, continually want to hit your head against the wall, we covered this story a year and a half ago. And if you type in Bald Brad, exercising is racist, my video will pop up. So Joe Rogan reacts to MSNBC article linking fitness to white supremacy. He said, holy F. Again, this is from a year and a half ago this article was released. And I found it hilarious. I mean, I was cracking up on that episode. It's a short clip. It's only like 4.5 minutes. I'll actually link it in the description for you guys. So a resurfaced article that linked physical fitness to white supremacy garnered a shocking response from podcast host Joe Rogan after the official account for MSNBC posted it Monday. Being healthy is far right. Holy F, he tweeted. The opinion article from 2022, I think it was like March of 2022, tried to claim that white supremacists online were trying to use physical fitness in order to seduce people into extremist groups. By the way, it was just a completely asinine article. And the left were going after Joe Rogan for this. Oh, well, you didn't read the whole article. We'll cite the article in just one moment. Give me a second here. The article from opinion columnist Cynthia Miller, was it Idris, was ridiculed widely when it was first published, and that mockery was reignited on social media. Quote, the only way to prove you are not a Nazi is to get fat, said columnist Bridget Fatasi, who has been a guest on Rogan's podcast. Quote, being normal is a revolutionary act nowadays, replied Blaze TV host Lauren Chen. Quote, what the F? I did 10 push-ups and now there was a swastika tattooed on my shoulder, joked one user when the article was originally published. I lost it on that. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Others scolded Rogan for supposedly not reading the entire article after responding. Quote, begging you zero brain cell S-heads to read past a headline just one time. Good Lord, read one response. We actually quoted the article when we did that show. It's asinine nonetheless. And again, I'll give you a quote from it in just one moment. Well, I love how millions of dudes think this guy is some genius when he is a total effing moron who can't read. I don't think anybody's claiming Joe Rogan is a genius. The guy knows a lot and he interviews a lot of people and he's great at his job. But the thing with Joe Rogan that I love is that he goes in with the mindset of listening to the person as if the person knew something that he didn't know. Even if he knew it, right? There's always something you can learn. I think on this show, a lot of times you kind of see me go a lot just after Democrats or the progressive left. That's kind of the main theme of the show. But if you were to sit down with me like on a one-on-one, which we've done before with Arthur Quan Lee, I definitely take up the position kind of like Joe Rogan, where regardless of who's talking, I'm going to listen to them as if they know something that I don't. Because people are a wealth of knowledge, regardless on what side of the spectrum they're on. And whatever they're talking about, you can learn something from, whether you agree with it or not. And so when I engage in conversation, I go from the position of trying to learn, not necessarily the position of trying to attack. When we go on the show, a lot of times when we talk about, we're going in the position of attacking the media and the progressive left for their hypocrisy and what they're doing. But in conversation, again, I think you can learn from anybody. And I don't think Joe Rogan is a genius. I think he's very, very smart and intelligent, 100%. But I think he comes from an angle of just trying to learn and kind of spotting out things that he thinks is crazy. And this is one of them. Exercising, getting fit is not white supremacy, is not racist, but that's the thing they're trying to push in this article. Rogan had previously mocked liberals for trying to link fitness to the right-wing cause and accused them of appealing to people who are lazy and fat on his incredibly popular podcast. Quote, there's a giant percentage of our population that is really lazy and fat. That is just a fact. That is true. And if you want those people on your team, you have to say there's nothing wrong with being lazy and fat. In fact, not being lazy and fat is actually connected to misogyny, racism, and fascism, and the far right, said Rogan in February. Quote, so people are like, great, let's just eat donuts and just effing vote blue, he concluded. There are pockets of the Democrat Party, progressive left, that are exacerbating and making it seem like obesity is okay. People struggle with their weight. I think almost everybody would struggle with weight for the most part. I know I do. I fluctuate 10 to 20 pounds extremely easy. I don't think it's a good thing to speak, I don't want to say kindly. I think we should speak kindly to people, but I think you understand the message I'm trying to come across is I don't think we should promote things that are unhealthy and pretend like it is healthy and that it's a normal thing. It's not a normal thing to take up 2 seats on an airplane and ask for one of them to be free, which is a true story. I don't think it's good to continually promote the idea of, hey, look at me eating 10 burgers, I'm 350 pounds, and this is a good thing, let's laugh about it. I think a lot of people look at that, and when you try to create norms out of something that's unhealthy, you're going to turn that ultimately into norm, which I believe we're seeing in terms of the LGBTQ community, where we're trying to make it normal for somebody to think that they are a boy when they're a biological male, or a biological male thinking that they're a boy or a girl. So it's just when you try to create things that are normal, there is a higher possibility of that actually being accepted by a group of people and exacerbating to the point where it almost turns into normal, even though it's biologically not, or it's objectively not true. And I think that's what you're kind of seeing here. So here's a quote from the actual article itself. It took 4 sentences before the column identified physical fitness with Hitler and Nazis. Physical fitness has always been central to the far right. In Mein Kampf, Hitler fixated on boxing and jiu-jitsu, believing they could help him create an army of millions who aggressive spirit and impeccably trained bodies combined with fanatical love of the fatherland would do more for the German nation than any other mediocre tactical weapons training. So this person went forth many of times claiming that exercising and being fit is an embodiment of Hitler's Mein Kampf and somehow connecting it to the love of the fatherland and all these crazy things. We don't like white supremacy here on the Bald Brad Show. We don't like racism. We don't like those evil things. Always going to be clear about that. Don't like violence, not for political violence or anything like that. This is crazy, but the left continually promote crazy things. Folks, do you think... I'm just trying to create engagement in the comment section. Do you think physical fitness is white supremacy? Do you think being healthy is racist, fascist? Let us know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Well, there's some updates here on Disney theme parks. And this might not seem like a huge deal to you, but it actually is a big deal to Disney. The Disney theme parks are not doing well. We're going to go further into the article here in just one moment, but I want to explain to you why this is a big deal. So Disney is cutting about $5.5 billion. They're not doing well. Disney Plus is tanking hard, so much so that they fired the head person of Disney Plus. The parks, just Disney as a whole, was not doing well. And I should have not said the parks. The parks were the one function that was doing well. So they fired Bob Chapek and hired Bob Iger back to kind of sort this whole thing out. The one thing that was keeping Disney afloat was their theme parks. That was the one thing that was actually making Disney and turning Disney a profit, was just their theme parks. Well, right now, Disney theme parks are not doing well in one key area, and that's Orlando. Walt Disney World and Disneyland have seen significantly shorter wait times to get on rides, a sign that visitors are staying away this summer as the Mouse House struggles to attract guests, apparently put off by exorbitant ticket prices, according to the report. I personally have been to Disneyland many of times, and it was one of the few places that I would say publicly I felt that Disney wasn't pushing an agenda upon me. Until recently, I went on July 4th. It was the first time ever in person that I've seen a trans worker at Disneyland. It was one of those vested people that are guides that you have to pay a lot of money for, that will get you to the front of the line and kind of walk you around the park and get you things like that. Nothing against the person, but it was the first time where I saw a man dressed as a woman with pigtails and everything, wearing a skirt and a vest, chauffeuring people around the park. So it's now getting to the point where, do I continually want to go to Disneyland anymore? That now that they're pushing this and kids are walking around going, what the hell's going on with this? So that's taking effect. And I think that is having a component to their ticket prices. But I also want to say Disneyland is not hurting. That place is so packed. It is head spinning you. I'm talking packed in there like sardines. Disneyland is not hurting. So I don't know where they're coming from as far as adding Disneyland into this. I've never been to Disney World, but Disneyland is not hurting you guys. No way in hell is it hurting. I've always said that they need to increase their ticket prices. They have not reached the ceiling yet, you guys. No way in hell. Like they can go so much further than what they're doing. Whereas I think if you increase the ticket prices, yeah, you won't have as many people in the parks, but you will still be reaching that benchmark or goal of what you're getting because you're still meeting the demand that's there. And they're not close to it. They're not close to it. As far as, again, Disney World, I'm not sure here. So data from the analyst firm Touring Plans shows the smaller crowds have descended on Walt Disney's company, US-based theme parks, as well as its competitors, according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, this is how they're going to formulate this whole thing here. They say here that in 2019, the average wait time to board a ride in the Magic Kingdom was 47 minutes. So now after the pandemic, in 2022, just last year, they saw that wait time shrink to 31 minutes. And so far, the average wait time this year has been 27 minutes. Well, we're only halfway through the year, so that average could go up. And the reason why I say that is because the closer you get to the holidays is when the theme parks really, really boom. So right now, you'll have things kind of start switching out around September. And September through December is when you're really going to start seeing an uptick in attendance, which could skew the average in terms of the wait time per ride. Furthermore, my question is that how much work was being done on these rides to where if there's certain ride closures in the park, that's going to fill up other times, and that's going to ultimately exacerbate the wait times. Furthermore, I don't know when, Star Wars came out in Disney World. I think it was 2019 that Galaxy's Edge was opened up, and there was huge wait times for those rides, which is going to affect your overall average. If you have a 2-3 hour wait time to get on a ride, that has the potential of affecting the average wait time. So there's certain things here that I don't think this is a good metric to determine if wait times for a ride is the actual attendance and the lowering of attendance in a theme park. I think you need to look at actual attendance in those parks. Hollywood Studios, which features Disney's Star Wars attraction, said its third slowest day of the past year on 4th of July, according to touring plans. Jamie Brown, a Walt Disney World annual pass holder who lives in Celebration, Florida, told the Journal that she visited all 4 of the resort's theme parks during the week of July 4th. Brown said that she managed to easily patronize attractions that are normally in high demand, such as Spaceship Earth and another terrace restaurant, basically. So Disney increased the number of days that $104 tickets will be available, while decreasing days it will charge its higher price tier to $179. I don't think that's anywhere near to what they can get for a ticket. People are willing to spend money on Disney. The issue here is if you do have lower attendance, especially in Florida, that makes sense to me because of the woke ideology that's being pushed by this company. People are not willing to spend their money where you are exacerbating an issue or an ideology of which people don't agree with. And you're doing it all fronts. Now you're doing it in your parks, you do it on your media brands, you do it in your merchandise. It's everywhere. And I think Disney's starting to wake up to the fact of, hey, like, people are not interested in this. They're not liking it. We need to cut it out. We need to get rid of these executives in our company that are pushing this ideology upon everybody. And we know it's the executive because years ago, we covered leaked footage of a meeting of Disney execs saying that every leading role from henceforth needs to be part of the LGBTQ community. And that's why since henceforth, you've seen 50% of the roles being gay, LGBTQ, trans, or whatever it may be out there on their animations, their Pixar movies, their live action movies, their theme parks. I mean, everything is just being pushed and shoved down your throat to where I just don't think it's going to do well going forward until they make a change. They are putting forth a trans person in their next Star Wars series. Like, they just hired a trans actor. It's a biological male that thinks he's a girl. So I don't know. They have not learned yet. And I mean, they're going to be the next Bud Light. They're just going to continue to sink. They're too big, you guys, to really, I don't say they're too big to fail. They're in every pockets of culture across the world. People are willing to have fun to sacrifice their ideology because they want to have a good time, and Disney's one of those places you can do. So we can have a whole conversation here, a whole live stream about Disney itself, what I think about it. But I want to know what you think about Disney. Do you think they're going to continue to kind of spin the ship around? Do you think they're finally going to do away with all this LGBTQ stuff? I don't think so. I think it's ingrained in their culture now so much so that they can't change it. And lastly, what would Walt think about all this? Do you think Walt would be pushing this whole thing? Here's to hear what you have to say in the comment section below or the live chat, folks. Lastly, to kind of end this off, we might have a little bonus conversation at the end here. We'll kind of see how we're doing on time. Looks like we're doing great on time. This has been making its rounds. So Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, which I really like, he has a couple books out there that I highly recommend you read, is going up, I guess, against the Breakfast Club, which I have not seen. I forget this guy's name. I think his name's like Charlemagne or Charmander the God or something like that. I don't know. I guess they go after him here. And we're going to do a real-time real-time reaction on this. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and roll it.
We have Teslin Figueroa. I'm sure Teslin has some questions. Tez, you good?
Yes, I do. So I've heard a lot of, what you think and your vision, and I'm a very practical person, and I want to kind of, opposed to talking about your opponents, let's talk about you for a moment, and let's actually talk about your policy. Explain to me your position on this civic duty voting.
Sure. So my position is, I think that every kid who graduates from high school should know the minimums about the country that we require an immigrant to know about the country in order to become a citizen.
Interesting.
So there's a test. My mom had to pass it. Every immigrant has to pass it to this country that asks you some basic questions.
I just want to highlight something for him here, you guys. See that book in the back that says Woke Inc.? That's actually his book. So I highly recommend you guys pick it up. It's a phenomenal read. I don't want to say it's a quick read, a lot of information there, but this guy is extremely smart, and I think it is worth it. You should pick up yourself a copy, maybe on Amazon Primes today. You might be able to get a cheap version of it. I know our book's a little bit cheaper on Amazon if you pick yourself up a copy today, but pick his up. It's good.
What are the three branches of government? What branch of government does the U.S. president lead? Some basic questions about what is the Bill of Rights. It's like a multiple choice exam, or some of them you write in. I think that if we're going to ask immigrants to pass that test, as we should, I think every 18-year-old who graduates from high school should have to pass that as well, because young people, it goes back to that issue of pride. You don't value a country that you don't know something about. You don't value something you inherit. You value something you have a stake in creating, in building, or knowing something about.
Good point.
So how do we think big about this? Well, young people, as I told you, most of them, very few of them vote as it stands today. Super small numbers. And apparently 60% of them say they would rather give up their right to vote than give up TikTok. Well, I say, all right, let's take that to the next level.
Did he just say that the youth are more willing to give up their right to vote than give up TikTok? It shows you how good we have it in this country, you guys, where we haven't seen war since the 40s, like a real world war in the 40s where bleep hit the fan. And when you have multiple generations now that are growing up with, their hardest problem is updating their iPhone, this is the type of stuff that you get where they're just willing to give up their freedoms for a freaking Chinese app.
How about we do something that raises the voting age from 18 to 25, but you still get to vote at 18 if you just pass that same civics test that an immigrant has to pass in order to vote. And tests aren't for everybody, so be it. Then you at least serve in the military or a first responder role for 6 months. That's my civic duty voting proposal. And the reason is, I'll actually make a prediction. I think youth voting in this country will skyrocket. From a very low level right now, it will skyrocket because you value something you actually have to earn.
I don't think so. I think when you put a roadblock in front of the generation today, and I've seen this as an educator, they're not willing to do it. You guys, even if you make things easier for them, and I understand this is kind of the opposite of making things harder for them, that they'll try to achieve of which is harder for them, that is not the case. You generally don't see that. Where you put a roadblock in somebody's way, they'll try to find a way to circumvent it, and that circumvention is just going to wait till they're 25 to vote. And I think there's a strong argument to be made about waiting till you're 25, because at the age of 18, your brain is not still capable of fully developing, and it's still not capable of actually making certain connections to economic reform or extremely complicated policies. Like the frontal lobe is not able to actually comprehend certain aspects and your decisions that would affect the future. And so when you have people voting in for a president where they're not actually conceptually and cognitively able to see what they're voting for and how it will affect the future, that's kind of a problem in terms of voting. There's a deeper conversation to be had here, but I actually disagree with them that the youth would go have an uptick in terms of voting. I just don't think that'll be the case.
And I think that this is not a left-wing or right-wing point. We all have duties as citizens, right? We aspire to free market capitalism, right? Materialist advance. And that's the life I've lived as well, by the way. My parents came to this country with not a lot of money. I've lived the American dream. I've made a lot of money by building businesses. That's one side of what it means to be an American. But part of it is we also have duties to this country. And I think the more we wake that up, actually, the voting age only became 18 in 1971 in the context of the Vietnam draft. So I just think reviving those ideas is going to be good for us.
A lot. So let's prove your point. Nick, our camera guy, do you know the 3 branches of the
Nick
federal government?
over 24, so it don't matter.
But I'm just saying, but nobody knows there are 24. Red, do you know the 3 branches?
Executive.
Well, I got a test. I would like to see if you're willing to pass, because I believe in, just as you believe in civic engagement, I believe in changing the ideas of what political opponents look like, what they should look like, or political candidates. Are you willing to take a test with me quickly? Because I just have a couple of questions for you.
I will, absolutely. And the way this is opening up, I have a feeling I'm about to fail it, but that's good. Let's do it.
That's right, yeah. Just for clarity, I am an independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. Cool. I think that's important for the premise of the argument, because I know you did a lot of debating at Harvard. I also want to make it clear that these are the same questions that I asked liberal Democrat Marianne Williamson. So I want to make sure that we put that out there as well, just to kind of set the foundation.
I'm open to being humbled. Let's do this.
Okay, great. Let's go. So you mentioned, the pride of being an American and how important it is to have pride in this country. I'm also a veteran, by the way, for the United States Air Force. So when is it that you voted for the first time?
I voted in 2020.
Okay, so you're how old again?
I'm 37 years old.
So for how many years you sat around and did not get involved at all in any civic engagement? Is that my understanding?
A long time is the answer. And actually, that's what I wrote this book about. I'm not holding myself out as some sort of model. I'm actually offering myself as a self-reflection of my journey as a citizen, to whom this country has given much, right? As an adult, when you have kids, it changes your perspectives. I'm very honest about that. Absolutely.
Okay, no problem. So let's go.
Is she going to start attacking him not voting at the age of 18 as him not giving back to his community or his country in terms of a civic duty? because the guy's literally written books. He's created companies. He's created, I think she's created like multiple drugs and like pharma that's helped people. Is this the argument that she's going to go with? Because it's not going to be a good one.
Deeper into the self-reflection. So you've sat around for, and sir, I'm being as respectful as I possibly can. Please don't take anything
and you don't even have to be. And you don't even have to be. So take it off and let's go.
So you've been sitting around in the country that my ancestors built for about 20 years. Your parents came over as immigrants, brought you over. You made millions, according to your resume, off of this country, and you have absolutely not been involved in civics. One, not voting, and two, let me just ask, because I know you mentioned earlier you don't want to sit around at the debate and talk about accomplishments. Let's make the accomplishments pretty simple. In high school, were you ever a class president or take any leadership role? Because your opponent did, Chris Christie. He was the class president. So have you ever taken any leadership at all on anything, or just...
Hold on a second. What the hell are you talking about, lady? First, you come across saying you're independent in the same way it should be like a Republican saying that they're a Republican, but in actuality, they're a rhino. I think you're somebody that masquerades as an independent, but in actuality, you're far left. The reason why I come to that conclusion is, one, the questions that you're asking. Two, you're being a little bit like not actual representative of who you really are in terms of, oh, well, you just been sitting around, but I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that. Yeah, you are. The guy has not been sitting around. Do you know anything about this guy and the accomplishments that he's made here in America and that's benefited other people? What the heck? He's done more for this country, lady, than probably you have. I understand you're a veteran, and I got a lot of respect for veterans. I'm not trying to diminish the fact that they served our country. But folks, as many vets know, you can have a desk job in the service. So there's the idea of what has actually progressed this country further. And I would say Vivek Ramaswamy's done a lot of good for this than a lot of other people have from what just he's created. And that comes with the whole idea of, that civic duty. If she's just talking about in terms of government, there's a lot of people that haven't served in government and civic duty. There's a lot of people that haven't done it. He should have brought up jury duty. That's what he should have brought up. Everybody's forced to do that. There's a civic duty. But her to go back to like, oh, well, in elementary school, have you ever led like a pizza party or like a birthday party or something? Who cares? Have you ever been part of the ASB, or did you ever lead a team in middle school? Like, who gives an actual F?
Can I just correct a couple factual things that are kind of important? My parents didn't bring me over to the country. I was born in this country, and I'm proud of that.
No, I know you were born here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio.
You mentioned my parents.
I'm saying your parents were immigrants. My apologies.
And that's all right. You said your parents brought you over to this country. I thought I
my
would
apologies.
set that record straight.
I mean, they were immigrants, but let's not go down the water hole.
Oh, no, we're not going to water hole. I just want to correct a couple facts. And then the other thing is,
you were born here in Ohio.
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's right.
Right. So you've been here your entire life. So the question is, did you take any leadership role in middle school, high school, class president?
I did.
I know you played tennis. What is it? Explain it to us.
Student council. But, I think that this is yes,
I have
held leadership roles over my life, but those don't qualify me to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah, it kind of does. Okay, it kind of does. Well, I'm giving the test. I'm the test administrator.
All right, there you go.
So it kind of does, because when you go from saying I want to go to the highest office,
and I'll tell you, I've led companies as well. Is the other leader?
Right,
the main leadership role I've played is and I want to talk about one early part of your premise that I also want to say, to bring it to the country point. The other point, you use the word sitting around. I'm not somebody who's saying I want the next generation, my kids' generation, to have more civic duties when they graduate from high school and college than I did when I did. That being said, I wasn't sitting around. I've developed medicines, 5 of which are FDA-approved products today, one of which is a life-saving therapy in kids, 20 of whom die by the age of 3 if they're not treated, 70% of whom now live lives of a normal duration. Another one for prostate cancer. So I don't apologize for making contributions. But
well, I don't want you to filibuster that
no worries.
Because that's not the question that I asked. And I don't consider, as a veteran, I'm talking about service. I'm not talking about what you
Civic
did for
service,
profit. I'm not talking about what you paid people to do with your company.
So I've not served the country
because that
in the way
means
you
nothing
have.
to me.
You do
what I'm
realize
talking,
she hasn't been able to ask a question. She's been trying to ask a question, and you've been talking over her.
I'm all ears.
We gave you the platform to let you say
I'm all defensive.
I'm all ears. No, I was just correcting a couple facts.
She hasn't had a chance to
That's
ask
all.
a question yet. Every time she tries to ask a question, you've been cutting her off. Good.
I'm all.
Well, she also misrepresented the guy that's running for elected office. So she's going to put herself on a pedestal of, oh, look at me. I was in the military. I've done all the civic duty, which, kudos to you and mad respect for you being a part of the military. If you're going to misrepresent the guy, I think he has a right to sit there and actually squash the things that you misrepresented him on. But now you're going to stand up like, oh, well, she needs to get the question. And by the way, he's already answered the question. He said, yes, he's done civic duty. And he said, oh, yeah, I was part of the student council and as part of other things. And by the way, I created a company that's done a lot of great things. And I think we diminish the aspect of like, oh, look at all these people that have been in civic service. You know who's been in civic service is Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, haven't done jack shit for this country. Those people have been in service. There's been people that have been in civic service their entire lives that actually have done more harm to this country than people like Vivek Ramaswamy that's done better things for this country and better things for humankind through the companies they've created. There's a lot of benefits from these corporations that made your life a lot easier than some of these people trying to make it seem like, oh, they're better than other people because of all that civic duty they've done. I think civic duty is important, but if you're going to try to diminish the aspect of what this guy's done in terms of his life and the company he's created, the good that he's actually done to this country and the rest of the world, because he hasn't ran in like office, a huge office in middle school, you're an idiot. You're an idiot.
Right. So my question again is, you're trying to, your goal is to raise the standard, and you're saying you want people to believe in country and you want people to have civic engagement. Yeah. And sir, I just find it very telling that you haven't had any civic engagement at all and haven't been at all. And when I say sit around, I don't mean you haven't done anything. I'm talking about in regards to service, because one thing about political office, the same way that you want to change how people look at politics and look at this country, I want to change how people look at politicians. And when I see that someone hasn't did anything at all to be of service to mankind, to take a leadership role, it's not good enough to just be on city student council. Were you a leader? All of that applies. Have you been able to get anybody in the room at any time, from a high school gymnasium to Ohio, Republican leadership there to now? Have you been able to get anybody in a room to believe in this vision? I don't agree with a lot of your vision statement, but I do know you've been going around having these discussions and getting everybody emotionally worked up to talk about vision and debate. But I want to get to the practical. You're trying to go from preschool to president of the United States. You're skipping over city council, county council, mayor, governor. You want to go straight to the top. So my question is this a PR? Is this for the PR, the perception of reality? Or can you point to any leadership where you've been able to get people to believe in what you're talking about that they're not paid to do on any of these vision statements that you have? If not, then to me, it's a moot point, because you're holding a standard that you haven't met yourself.
So you can hold people to a standard and expect the best of them and not meet that standard either. I mean, isn't that just everyday life, trying to better yourself each and every day to a standard of which sometimes isn't attainable? I mean, especially people of faith, right? To not sin, isn't that unattainable? But don't we strive to still not sin? So this whole idea of like, you can't expect something of others of which you're not able to do. I mean, that is literally every pastor out there, right? Preaching the word of God to people, expecting something of them of which is not obtainable to do, but you still try to hit that expectation regardless of it. I mean, it's so stupid. And then her going like, oh, well, you didn't join the ASB or you haven't been part of a council in like preschool to middle school. And she herself said that is basically irrelevant in that long form question that she gave. And who the hell asks a question in a paragraph form? So wild, man.
So if you're only going to count government service, you're absolutely
No, not government
right.
service.
Okay.
Student council in the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th. Were you a leader? Did you do anything to rally anybody? Did you fight for better lunch? I did in the 6th grade with Miss Harris.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about government. I can go all the way back from the 5th grade every year, sir, because people who are in service to this country, if you're going to go around saying you want people to believe in this country that I signed up to die for, then I want to make sure that you're holding that same standard. So not government, not political. Let's not get it confused. Yeah. I'm saying, have you did anything of service that we can point to say he is a good leader, like Chris? And I'm not even a fan of Chris Christie, but he was the student council president in high school. So have you done anything of service besides yourself that has not benefited yourself? It's just a simple question.
So
have you done anything in service that hasn't benefited yourself? Folks, at almost every point of some sort of service, you are benefiting yourself in some way, shape, or form. In almost every circumstance, not every single one, but most of them. Even joining the military, if you were to do it based on service, then you would not receive something back because you're there to serve. And when you're there to serve, you don't ask for something back. There's a lot of things that you get from the military from serving that you are receiving, whether that's getting a portion of your education paid for when you want to go to college, when you leave the service, to benefits programs in the VA, to you receiving a compensation from serving in the military. So don't act like, oh, well, you're not receiving anything from some sort of service you're doing. A lot of service that you give, you're getting some sort of benefit that's going to help you thus in the future in some way, shape, or form.
The acts of service that I have performed are small, so small that I don't even want to talk about them to boast. But yes, have I volunteered for this country? Yes, I have. I've always been interested in healthcare.
It's okay to talk about the small things.
These are small things, right? But thank you.
Let's just mention it.
Bethesda North Hospital.
So it's really a no?
No, it's not a no. It's just something I don't like boasting about. I
Well,
volunteered.
we're not boasting. It's an interview.
So
You're boasting on your vision and everything else.
I think
you
one of the
boasted
things-
on the millions of dollars that you made. So let's just throw it out. So in sixth grade, I'll give you an example. I'll help you out. In sixth grade, Miss Harris, Miss Harris was Let me give you an example because maybe you're confused. In the sixth grade, Miss Harris was snatching papers from everybody in the classroom. So me as a 10-year-old, I went to the principal and said, I'm tired of Miss Harris snatching papers, and I'll organize the students around getting Miss Harris to stop snatching papers. Now, there was a consequence for that. I got suspended for 5 days for talking back, and I got in trouble. I got a spanking, and I was on punishment for months and months. But that is a simple way of organizing people. So I want you to kind of boast about it the way you did the millions of dollars and said what you did with the pharmaceutical companies. What leadership can you point to that you've been able to rally anybody around anything that is of service that you did not pay anybody to do? I think that's important for the next president of the United States.
Sure. So
does anybody else think her argument is just really, really stupid? I would have a greater respect for her argument if she was talking about something outside the realm of high school and middle school and elementary school. Oh, well, I tattletailed on my teacher. And I rallied the troops and I got in trouble. Who cares? I don't care what you did in middle school and high school. I care more than what you did as an individual outside of that realm and how you've progressed through your life and what characteristics and what qualities you have to lead this country. If you're going to say, well, you didn't vote, you weren't a leader at any time in your life. The guy was a leader of a company. He's created things. He's actually done a good in this country and possibly the world with the FDA drugs that he has or whatever he created. Done a lot more than you have, lady. Again, respect for joining the military, but what did you do after that other than you pretending to be an independent when in actuality you clearly are a progressive leftist?
I've always been drawn to healthcare. That's why I ended up founding companies in that space. When I was in high school, part of what drew me into it was that I was a volunteer at a local hospital. I actually became the leader of that group of volunteers that actually discharged women who had recently given birth. That was it. Nothing big to it.
Did you do anything we can point to stand out?
But I want to say something about that because
he answers the question. He answered it previously that he's on student council. It wasn't good enough for her. So then she changed the dynamics of it and started morphing into something like elementary school, middle school, and high school. Have you ever been a leader? So now he's answering the question that he's been a leader. He volunteered at a hospital of which he was a leader for. He was a leader in a company. He was a leader in developing stuff. And it's still not good enough for her. Well, what did you do in terms of civic? It must be government. You working in high school to be a part of ASB is not government. It's not civic, if that's the terms that she's using for in terms of civic.
I say that in the book. If I'm being really honest, why did I do that in high school? A part of the motivation, I'll be just brutally honest with you, was part of the motivation was that's actually what allows you to get into a good college when you graduate. Is you want to check the box of community service.
So it was about you.
So there was an
about
element. So there's and I'm admitting that in a way that very few other people do. But I got to be honest about it. That was a big part of why I did it.
Yeah, it was about self, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to give it back to the guys. I'm going to be honest about it with you.
Yep.
Leadership is not about self.
I agree with you on that.
What I just heard is that everything is about you, and to be honest with you, this is just a PR campaign, sir, to be honest with you. And I think you're trying to go further to the right because you want the Republicans to accept you as a man of color. And I think the only way you think you can do that is to be so extreme.
I appreciate your opinion.
with your positions, and I think you need to do a little bit more work in service. I'll give it back to you guys.
Let me ask, because she did ask me a question, and then you guys said you wanted to hear a response, but I think I heard an expression of opinion. So just I want to make sure you're all done before I respond to it.
No, just wanted to say that even then, I would still want you to point out, even at the hospital, something that you did that made you stand out on when actually taking a leadership role. But you already answered it. You said you did it because it was a motivation to get in college.
Exactly.
Which means it was
I'm
about
being very
you.
honest about that. But
everything has been about you. So as a veteran,
let me tell you something. I appreciate
it's very hard for me to follow leaders that make everything about them. So you might want to work on that because it's a lot of veterans and Republicans. So you might want to work on that talking point and maybe do some volunteering while you're on the campaign trail. I'm going to give it back to Charlamagne and Envy.
Yeah, I want to be respectful. Want to make sure you got everything you wanted to on the table before I respond to that.
If this was just us, it'd be a lot more.
You guys tell me. I'm the guest on your show. You tell me when I'm good to speak.
Go ahead.
You sure? Mm-hmm. You sure about that? If we're good.
Yeah, we're sure.
So I think there's a different worldview that we have. And I think the worldview is how one actually makes contributions in a country. I do not believe that there's a separate category of just if you're serving the country and then if you're acting in self-interest, that's somehow sinful or wrong. I reject that vision. To the contrary, I think capitalism is the best system known to man to lift people up from poverty. I deeply respect and I thank you for your service to this country. I'm grateful for it. I haven't served the country in the way that you have. But I think that the way you get ahead in capitalism, how did I develop a multi-billion-dollar biotech company? It was by developing medicines that save people's lives.
A lot of people say capitalism causes poverty.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I disagree with that. I think that capitalism demands that you provide something to someone that helps them more than you're actually charging them for it. That's the only way.
That's
the
a
tried
business
and true
model,
way
sir. That's
it
not
is a business
service.
model. It's not, I'm not saying
that's not
it's
service.
I'm saying it's having an impact on a
An
society.
elected official is service. That's the disconnect.
That's right. So
that you're missing, that they didn't
now
teach
I'm moving on to there are phases of our lives where we do different things.
Well, you're moving straight all the way up to President of the United States.
You know, I don't view it as a hierarchy. I don't view it as a hierarchy. I don't believe in hierarchies. The hierarchy is the way the bureaucracy works. I don't believe in so we have a difference in opinion.
You also don't believe in service, and that's where we're having a disconnect.
Well, I disagree with you on that. I just disagree with you on that.
I think it's whack that you're proposing to revoke voting rights for 18 to 24-year-olds unless they meet certain qualifications, but you never exercised your rights.
Well,
so long.
So most young people don't, is the whole point.
Well,
so, Charlamagne, let me ask you a question. Do you think
the largest voter turnouts have been over the last couple of elections, few elections?
They still voted at a very low rate. But let me ask you a question. What do you think about high school students being required to pass the civics test? What's your perspective on that?
The one that you proposed?
The one that every immigrant has to pass in order to enter the country. If every high school student has to pass that before they graduate, what's your take on that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Okay, good. Now let me tell you something about the law as it exists today. Men in this country, not women, but men are required by law to register with the Selective Service, age 18 to 25. That's the draft. We don't have a draft, but men have to register. If you don't, they put you in prison. At least they can. It's a criminal offense if you don't. My view is I would decriminalize that. I don't like the government telling you what you can and cannot do. That's not the American way. But if you want to enjoy the civic privilege of voting, then I think it is perfectly legitimate to say you have to at least know something about the country or have served that country, one or the other. Absolutely. Now, I think that what do we actually care about, right? What do we can do the personal attack thing. We care about the country. We care about the country.
The cornerstone of democracy, though.
Voting is the cornerstone of democracy. I have not.
Yeah,
that's right. And you know, here's the thing. Here's the thing that's different is,
sir, excuse me, because this is important. We have to.
Doesn't shut up, huh? She just runs her mouth, man.
Pause it. But this is not a personal attack.
That's okay.
This is you, and I know that as a Republican, you are certainly not soft. So this is not a personal attack.
Yes, I'm okay with attacks too.
This is about asking about your background and how it correlates, how it's relevant to saying you're going to serve this country, because president is actually. So
I have been an open book in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
And I'm going page by page.
And I'm saying that I have not.
I'm going to let you finish.
Yep.
But I want to be clear. It's not an attack.
Okay.
Because you've been an open book, but that doesn't mean I have to like what's on the page.
That's fair
But
enough.
It's not an attack. I'm just reading the book.
Yep.
And so when I hear somebody say you need to get to either pass this test or do some type of service to the country, and I spend hours looking, you were in the Phi Beta Kappa Did you have a leadership role in college, the honor roll? When somebody sets service as the standard and they've done no service except to themselves, that's a fair question. It's a question.
And you just so I've been on the, I mean, look, I was on high school student council. Yes, absolutely.
Were you a leader? Were you a leader?
I was a vice president of my high school student council. Absolutely. I was the president of the National Honor Society. I can go down the list. It's just that
that's what I was asking you to do. Go down the list.
So I was a president of the National Honor Society. I was the vice president of my student council. I was a lead amongst the volunteers at the hospital where I served growing up. I was actually a leader in volunteer research over the summers. From my senior year,
all of that, but you already admitted all of that was to get into college.
Not all of it, but I am admitting it. I think that
I know that's self-service, though. I just do you understand the difference between self-service and service?
I think the reality is, and I think we just all have to be more honest. When many high school students are serving today, not all of them, but I think let's smoke it out. I don't like that structure where we actually mix service with self-interest.
And I don't like the structure of somebody saying somebody need to give service as a veteran. I don't like the structure of somebody going to the highest office of the land and have not served anybody at any time unless it was self-serving. So this is where we just have two different ideologies. And I know your goal is to come here and get into.
Here's my perspective.
That's why we got different perspectives.
Remember, two guys, you got to leave in 5 minutes. I know.
I'll let them wrap up.
Let me just say one thing: here's my vision of the run for presidency, and this is why I say I'm an open book. Is my job is to make sure people in this country know who I am and what I stand for, and I think that very few politicians on either party actually get that job done. So what I say is I'm an open book about who I am and what I stand for. Whether the people of this country want to vote for me, that's their question, not mine. That's their job to determine, not mine. And you're free not to vote for me. I expect you won't, and that's okay. But I'm doing my job in the 3 books I've written over the last year, in the conversation I'm having with you guys, being far more honest than any politician that I know in the last 10 years in this country. And I think when I say we want to fix corruption, you don't know what the first step is. The first step is actually people being honest. So you guys know me. You know what I stand for. I haven't hit back on that. Whether the people in this country want to vote for it, that's their choice.
Do you want to unite the country?
I do want to unite the country.
So why is one of your marquee campaign proposals making sure black people can no longer benefit from affirmative action?
See, here's the thing. It's actually been a disastrous experiment over the last 60 years. I've seen the impact that it's had. Unlike a lot of other executives, I've had senior executives in my company who happen to be black, senior executives in my campaign who happen to be black. I actually went to a majority or close to majority black school 1st through 8th grade. There isn't a single one of those black kids or black colleagues that could not have achieved everything I have in my life. I firmly believe that to be true. And I have seen the unfair discrimination behind closed doors, the things that people will say behind closed doors, about somebody who would have had that position anyway, but was unfairly tarred with the taint of saying they got it because of a race-based quota system. I think that's unjust to everyone across the board. And I think that the right way to do this is actually ensure equality of opportunity, educational access at an early age, which, by the way, we don't have in this country, starting at an actual young age. How about doing that in a way that's agnostic to race? That way we prevent seeing one another on the basis of a color of our skin, but we actually solve the real inequalities that we have when it starts with inequality of opportunity, starting with education. So my view is, I think my approach is actually going to be more successful in lifting up more black Americans than have been the Lyndon Johnson approach of actually using race-based quota systems.
So if the Supreme Court does rule on affirmative action and they do ban it, who do you feel it benefits versus who it hurts?
I think that it helps everyone if they end race-based affirmative action in college admissions. I think it will literally help everyone in different ways because it restores merit in the United States. Are we perfect in ensuring equality of opportunity? No, we're not. The fact that kids are trapped by the zip code in which they're born, determining where they go to school, is a problem, which is why I favor universal school choice in this country, which has actually done more to help black Americans than has any affirmative action program.
What's your thoughts on people saying that you got Don Lemon fired?
I think that the New York Times reported that. I had an open debate with Don Lemon. What CNN wanted to do with that is their choice. My view is, though, we need to start saying in public the things that people are otherwise saying in private. There's a gap right now in the country. Let's admit it. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter.
Be careful with that because a lot of people in your party are going to start saying nigga out loud.
I don't think so, actually. And I would certainly hope not. I would condemn it if...
Whoa. What? Did he just say what I thought he said of like all of a sudden because affirmative action is gone and that you're giving everybody an equal opportunity to make decisions that will benefit their life, and the decisions that they may make will either benefit or not benefit them? Like now all of a sudden that's going to get into the realm of people using the N-word?
They do. I would condemn it if anybody does. All right. But what I think is we need to close the gap between what people say in private and what they say in public. That allows us to air our differences, and then we actually find unity there.
Or is he correlating the whole idea of people saying what they say in private and converting that to public, that because there's people that say the N-word in private, that's all of a sudden going to extrapolate to public? I mean, that's a stupid thing to say. I understand what he means, but that's a stupid thing to say.
That way. That's actually what I think unites the country, not creating this culture of hush-hush, right? Say one thing in public and a different thing in private. And I do reject Don Lemon's premise. What did he tell me on set? He said, you can disagree with me when you have black skin and you've lived in this country, whatever ethnicity you are.
But
explain
sir,
it to me. I just reject that. I think we should.
Sir, let's just use a real example of just what everybody said. You said, people can have difference of opinion. They can have, you want to unite people. I gave you a difference of opinion as a veteran, and you came back and said that I was personally attacking you. And that
her whole embodiment, have you noticed that? She's brought it up many times. Well, me as a veteran, me as I did service, look at me, this or that. Like her whole embodiment in this argument is like, look at me, I'm a veteran. Like, from what I've been told, I'm not a veteran. Grandfather was in World War II in Pearl Harbor. Father himself was in the Navy too. Like, I don't see them ever boasting, oh, look at me, I was in the service. Matter of fact, when you go to the stadium and they say, hey, if you're a veteran, can you stand up and get applause? My father and grandfather never stood up. They always just sat down. So from what I found, I've also heard this from Navy SEALs, from watching the Sean Ryan show, to others, is that they're saying, you know what, I don't sit there and look for affirmation of me being in the service. Like somebody that's really been through the shit doesn't sit there and go, oh, I'm a military vet, or oh, I was in this war, I was in that war, whatever. There are people that been through the crap, the shit, and that are, say, hey, look at me, I'm a veteran. No problem with that. But this whole lady's identity seems to be like, oh, look at me, I'm a veteran. Kudos to you served, mad respect. But again, like that whole aspect of like, well, look at me, I served. Like, I'm sorry, I don't think you should be president, lady, just because you're in the military. I don't think just because you're in the military, insto facto, now that qualifies you to be president. I would rather take somebody that's created a business like Donald Trump or Vivek Ramaswamy over somebody like Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders that suck let the government tit their entire life and that have served their entire life and then jack crap other than to destroy this country from the inside out.
That is a way of gaslighting and basically, trying to set the idea that I was against you when I just had, that's the statement you made. And what I'm saying is, instead of us just having the debate, because see, I didn't talk about colors, which you probably expected when you came in here.
I did not.
I didn't.
She did though. No, she literally opened up by saying the country that my ancestors built. I mean, you literally started off your whole thing about color, lady. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like your opening statement was about color.
I didn't. Well, that's fine. I didn't talk about color. I didn't get all emotional about your vision, because I really wanted to just talk about what you've done in service, because you yourself has raised service as the number one thing that what people need to do in order to participate in the country that my ancestors built. And you said that I personally attacked you. So just to give you some advice, if you're going to say, hey, let's have difference of opinion, let's be able to discuss.
I loved everything you did. I loved the whole thing.
Because I had a question that it was a personal attack, because
it was. I don't think a question. Wow. I think this is great, because you know what I said?
That's so disgusting. In the live chat comment section, guys, was it a personal attack? I think it was. I mean, that whole thing of her continually interrupting the guy, like, oh, what service did you do? Look at me, I was in the military. Like, what did you do? Oh, well, okay, you were in leadership, but it was all for you receiving some sort of benefit for it, whether that's you getting the college or receiving millions of dollars or whatever. It was a personal attack. She doesn't like the guy. Oh, well, I wasn't getting all emotional. I mean, you kind of were. So the whole thing about her is just disingenuous. Again, we talk about this a lot in the book, Trojan Horse, how the Democrat Party and the progressive left, specifically Antifa and Black Lives Matter, they masquerade as anti-fascist when actually they're fascist. She's masquerading as an independent when in fact she's a leftist.
What's the job?
Did you say personal attack?
What's the job is everybody needs to know who a candidate is and what they stand for. That's the candidate's job. Whether you vote for them or not, that's your choice.
Did you say I personally attacked you, or did I hear it wrong? I just want to make sure.
I did not say you personally attacked me. No, I said we have actual good. I wanted to know whether or not we were actually able to. You said sit around for 20 years. I said I didn't sit around for 20 years, but that's okay. I think that, you know what, if somebody's running for U.S. president, I want to say this.
Well, you
If you
did.
can't
Well,
handle
sir,
the
you
heat,
did
you stay
say,
out of the
quote,
kitchen.
You said,
So we'll come in
we can keep
and we'll
going
handle
with
the
the
heat.
personal attacks. You did say personal attacks, though.
And
So let's be honest. Remember,
Yeah.
that's your number one thing, being honest.
And I know you.
I agree with
I know
you.
you have to go, but I do disagree on what you said about affirmative action because I feel like
Fair enough.
without that legislation, I don't think black people stand a chance. We had to create the legislation to even have a chance, and I don't know why you have faith that without that legislation, things will be fair or on equal footing for black people.
I think that
I can't believe this mindset, you guys. This is him. I don't think black people can succeed without affirmative action. I mean, you think that just because the color of somebody's skin that they should rise above somebody else just because of something of which they have no involvement in from the point of birth? Like you don't get to choose what race you are. You get to choose who you are, though. You get to choose what characteristics you have. You get to choose what your decisions are. You get to make those decisions. You don't get to decide what race you are. It blows my mind. And then you can have a message for young people of color, even older, that you can't make it because of the color of your skin. What a disgusting thing to say, dude. As a guy that's literally written books, you have all people of color on here with a major podcast. A guy's running for president that's a person of color. Written books, like successful people, and you're going to tell them because of the color of their skin that they can't make it? What the hell is wrong with you? What a terrible message to push to your audience, which I would imagine there's some people of color that are watching your show, and you're going to tell them because of something they can't control that they can't make it into the university they want? What a sad message. That's a Democrat message, you guys. That is a progressive left message, specifically a leftist message. We don't believe that as conservatives and Republicans. Like we think that's a trash argument. We think, regardless of the color of your skin, that if you make a sequence of good decisions, not one, not two, sometimes you can make one or two and be extremely successful. You have to make a sequence of good decisions in your life. And if you do so, if you make the right decisions, you can be what you want to be. Not in all cases. Not in all cases, but a lot of them. You'll at least increase the probability of chance of you getting into the major institution you want, the job you want, if you meet the requirements and the specifications. It has nothing to do with your skin color. So if you're a person of color, I'm telling you, conservatives or Republicans want you to be successful. You need to make good decisions. You need to make the right decisions. If you don't have people in your life that are enabling those good decisions and affirming the good decisions you're making and also telling you which are the bad decisions and telling you straight to your face you're making bad decisions, you need to change this decision in your life and make good ones. Then you need to cut those people out of your life and bring in the people that are positive in your life that are going to sit there and help you guide along and be a better person for not just yourself and your life, but also this country. If you're a person of color, you can be successful. You just got to make good decisions. Don't listen to this guy. Don't listen to what his name, Charmaine or Champagne or whatever the hell the guy's name is. That is a terrible message for yourself. Get good people in your life that want to sit there and have you be successful regardless of your skin color. I'm telling you, conservative Republicans will invite you into their homes. They'll invite you into their party. They want you to be successful. And you don't need affirmative action to do that. No way in hell do you need it. You can compete with every other race out there. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with your characters, your characteristics, meaning your intelligence, what decisions you've made, what qualities you have, has nothing to do with the color of your skin. What a disgusting argument.
Most people who benefit from affirmative action are the immigrants who came after Kennedy's immigration reform in the 60s. They are not descendants of slaves. They are people who came as immigrants like my parents did. Mm-hmm. And so I just think it is a broken system to say that you look like someone to whom a bad thing once happened and you're going to be favored over someone who looks like someone who once did a bad thing.
You think your parents would have gotten the same shot without that legislation?
I mean, so it turns out that Asian Americans, Indian Americans don't benefit
take away
from.
Something that benefited your parents, which directly benefited you.
See, here's what I'm saying is whether or not it's in our past, the question is, how do we actually move forward as one nation? And I do not believe it is with race-based quotas. I believe it is economically empowering all Americans.
I think that legislation was put here to protect people that look like me, people that look like you, and I think you're ridiculous to want to get rid of.
Here's what I would say is Lyndon Johnson's Great Society that this was part of, right? So affirmative action was part of it. There was a broader set of policies designed to help Black Americans, I think have been disastrous for Black Americans and all Americans.
Well, sir, it wasn't disastrous for you. And what Charlemagne is saying is your parents benefited from it.
They did not. I mean, as a point of fact, that's false. Indian Americans do not benefit from affirmative action.
No, that's not as a point of fact. No, that's not as a point of fact, because without the liberties that Black folks have fought for, which has basically immigrants have been able to prosper in this country because of that. But we're not going to go there. Let's just say they benefited from being able to have the freedoms that Black people fought for. That's the bottom line. And in turn, it benefited you. And then your answer a moment ago was, well,
This is such a revisionist history. And I'm not saying Black people didn't fight for their freedom. That would be a ludicrous thing to say. But it was white people and Black people that fought for Black people's freedoms. I mean, it was white people in majority that fought in the Civil War for Black people's freedoms. Black people fought in that war as well. So this whole idea that it was just Black people, built this country. I mean, if you were to look at the argument of that, yes, Black people did build portions of this country, but if you look at it at a holistic viewpoint, that just isn't true. And one of the main arguments to kind of support that why that isn't true is that if kind of the idea that Black people built this country early on in terms of looking at slavery, then if that was so economically beneficial that if you built this country up so much, then the South would have never lost against the industrial North. The reason why is because if slavery and if Black people built this country predicated on slavery, then it would have industrialized the South so much so that whatever technology and industrial basically provisions you would have or manufacturing, whatever it would have been, is that would have been so booming that you would have outcompeted against the industrial North and that you would have beat them in the Civil War. But the problem is that you didn't. So the whole idea that Black people built America, I think is just inherently false. I think it's a revisionist history. I think there were Black people that helped build this country, like Frederick Douglass and the ideas that he built upon. You have Martin Luther King. I think there are people that throughout our history that were people of color did a dramatic good and did a huge benefit to this country. But this ideology that, oh, my ancestors built this country and all these other things, and look at us, we need affirmative action, all these other things. I just don't think that's true. I think that it's a very nuanced subject, but she's painting this picture as if, it's truth or something.
Let's not talk about stuff in our past. See, once it benefited you, you were able, you moved on.
I want to be honest with you. You guys want to get real. Let's get real. My parents were.
That's why the heart of a service. No, sir.
Because
the Black people hadn't fought.
Yeah, we gotta get real. My grandparents lived. They lived in a colonial society. Britain colonized where my grandparents lived as well. But I think that I don't do well by seeing myself as a victim of the white man because actually Great Britain happened to have colonized where my grandparents were actually colonized.
That's moving the goalpost. We talk what benefited your parents when they got here.
That's right.
What benefited all of us is the fact that we have a free country. Where anybody is free to achieve what they want. I don't know what they came to this country with not a lot of money. What benefited them was hard work and dedication. My dad faced layoffs when he was growing up at GE. Right. He went to law school at night to be able to keep his job. What did that teach me?
Affirmative action benefited him?
I don't think affirmative action benefited him. Absolutely not. I think hard work and dedication benefited him. And that's part of what I want to share with all Americans. I want to make this the country where no matter who you are and what your skin color is, you get ahead with your own hard work and commitment and dedication. That you get ahead not on the color of your skin, but the content of your character.
He has to go, guys.
And that's what I want for America.
One more thing. You told a voter that you were open to ending foreign aid to Israel.
Look, we spent a lot of time on that, but this person's running for president of our party, the Republican Party. I really do think he's a net benefit to our party, you guys. We need voices like this. I don't think he'll be president, but I think he'll be a phenomenal vice president. I think, honestly, Trump or DeSantis would be foolish not to pick this guy up as VP. I know this is probably not the answer you guys want to hear, but if there's a DeSantis Ramaswamy ticket, I'm as of right now, I'm more inclined to vote for that ticket than a Trump Kerry Lake, and I'll tell you why. I like Trump as president. I voted for the guy. Was it 2 times now? Maybe 3 times now. I can't even keep track. And I love him as president. I love his policy. It's going to determine who his vice president is. Vivek, he's just a good pick. Kerry Lake, I love her. I love her tenacity, but she reminds me of Trump. And I think there needs to be a balance. And I think Mike Pence and Trump had that balance. Pence was very quiet, very well-spoken. Vivek, really smart, very well-spoken. And I think that he could be a good balance to Trump in articulating the ideas and the policies that they want to put forward. I think he would be a very great person to go out in front of the media for Trump. Trump is good in front of the media, but Trump you guys, he talks a lot. And sometimes that talking is good, but that talking also gets him into scuffles, we'll say. Whereas I think Vivek can take Trump's arguments and articulate them in an amazing way and speak on behalf of the president, in which the president is not capable of doing. Trump is not capable, you guys, of going into deep territory in terms of his ideology and articulating in a way that is spoken like Vivek speaks here. Trump is very good at labeling things in a very big picture, make America great again, that people can get behind. And I think that's what created his following and his base. But he needs somebody there, and I just don't think Carrie Lake is the right decision. I think she's too much like Trump, and I think it's going to create too much drama, where you need somebody that could sit there and handle a situation like Vivek did with like the media going after Trump, the media going after him, articulating things and just blatantly lying, and him formulating in a way, keeping his composure that's still respectful, but still gets his point across. In the same way, the media, the Democrats, the progressive left, they're going to go after Trump. They're going to go after DeSantis. And DeSantis and Trump are both going to push back, and they're going to say things in the media that I think is important. But having somebody on your back and on your bench like Vivek here that can sit there, keep their composure, and articulate things in a respectful manner, I think is a good balance to both DeSantis and Trump. I'm curious on what you think about that. A little bit of a longer episode today, folks, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. I do want to talk about something here to all of you. And please don't be offended by what I'm saying. Now I sound like this nutso lady. There was a subscriber, and I've kind of heard this from maybe about 4 or 5 people throughout the time of doing the show, saying, oh, you're plugging memberships, you're plugging your merch, you're plugging your coffee mug, you're plugging your book too much. Like, we get it. It's continuous, it's continuous, it's continuous. And they're saying that they're going to unsubscribe. I personally, and, you know, kind of talking to you more of like not a show host and all these things, I personally don't understand that logic of, oh, like, if you don't do this, then I'm going to unsubscribe. Look, I do this for fun, you guys. I do this to hang out with a community of like-minded people, where I get to hang out with you in the live chat. As I've always mentioned, I'm always appreciative of those that even watch the show. You know, we've been doing this for over 10 years, and by we, I mean all of us, but, you know, myself, I've been doing this over 10 years every single day. I work multiple jobs. I do this as a hobby because I enjoy doing it. If it's going to sound bad, but look, if this show's not for you, if you don't like the way I run things, like, there's 1,000 other channels that you can go support. There's a ton of conservatives out there. I don't do this for money. The money that we get from memberships or merch goes back into advertising for the show, buying a new lens, or saving up for a new camera lens or something, which we're doing. Like, the stuff's not cheap. It's not like I'm just rolling in dough. But if you feel like the way the show's not being ran isn't for you, of course, I appreciate constructive feedback and criticism. Of course, we're always trying to make this better, but we can only do so much when, you know, I'm only one person running a website, creating merchandise, writing a book, trying to write other books, doing research. I just don't understand that logic. And I think for those that are always here watching the show, I think you understand me plugging stuff. And also, it's an hour and a half long show, an hour to an hour and a half. People jump in at different times. There's a lot of people that still don't know we have a book. Like, not everybody goes to the website. Not everybody knows we have a mug. Not everybody knows we have t-shirts. So when I'm plugging this stuff throughout the show, it's no different than having an advertiser or many different advertisers, like you see from Dan Bongino, the Daily Wire, Fox News, and everybody else that does podcasts, plugging stuff throughout the show. We don't have any sponsors, so I figured, hey, might as well sponsor myself here and plug the stuff that I've created because I'm proud of it and I enjoy it. I think it's good quality, or else I wouldn't talk about it in the first place. I think we have good shirts. I think this is a quality mug. I think it's a fun mug to have. And why would I not when I created it? And I know there's people out there that would love to support people like me and others. So I just want to talk about that as to why I plug this stuff. And if you think it's too much, you know, I guess I'm sorry that it's too much, but you know, it's a community that we're trying to build. I do get emails asking, hey, where's the join tab? I'm trying to become a member. I don't know how to do it. Do you have a membership? How can I give back? How can I donate to you? How can I buy any products you have? Where are the links? So just because the links are in the description section or wherever, there's a reason why I'm doing everything I do. There's a reason why I'm putting the links in the description section or the live chat now, because people don't know where to find them. Or people are also having issues with the YouTube saying, hey, you know, I can't see your videos. Things aren't populating. My bell notifications being turned off. I'm being unsubscribed. So there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, folks, as to why I say certain things that I do on the show, why I promote certain things I do on the show. So for those that are longtime viewers, and we always hang out together, you know this, but I do want to bring awareness to things that I'm hearing. If you don't want to be a part of our community, like, you're not forced to, please don't feel like you're forced to. This is a cool way for us to hang out. Hopefully we get bigger one day. If not, like, again, this is just fun. It's just a hobby for me to kind of vent, hang out with people that are like-minded. I live in the state of California, folks. Yeah, we have the most Republicans and conservatives in the entire country here, but there's not exactly a ton of people in the community and all these other things. So this is my way of hanging out with like-minded people. And I've always said this, I have the best community. You guys are here each and every day. I know your names. You're familiar to me in the live chat. That is me really in the live chat. We pre-record the show, but I'm in the live chat with you live while watching this with you. I have it on my TV and some other devices, but I'm here with you, going over and looking at my mug, not my mug, but my face, and sometimes laughing at going, why did I say that? That was stupid. But I ranted on long enough. I'm just appreciative for everybody that supports the show consistently. Don't feel like you have to be a member. Don't feel like you have to buy the books or the mugs or things like that. You just honestly hitting that like and subscribe button and leaving me a comment down below is enough for me, because we're fighting the forces of the left here on Big Tech. And I think you are all self-aware that it's been an uphill battle for me since day one on trying to grow this show. But by you hitting that like, subscribe button, just engaging in the comment section live chat, that's more than enough for me. Don't feel like you have to give me your money. If you want to go above and beyond, you know where your money's going. It's going back into the production of the show, whether that's through advertising. It all goes, 100% of the money goes back into promoting the show. There's not a single money where I'm taking and going, oh, let me buy I don't buy anything, but I don't really do much. Starbucks or something. I don't know. I'm not taking your hard-earned money and going and buying stupid stuff. You guys understand that. So anyways, I don't need to go any further. You understand where I'm coming from. I love you guys to death, but there's a lot of other conservatives and Republicans that would love your support as well. With that being said, hit that like and subscribe button and any of the links in the description. Buy the book. We got a mug. We got coffee. Mine's almost done here, folks. We're almost done. Full cup when the show started. And with that being said, I love you guys to death, and I'll see you tomorrow here on The Ball Brad Show.